They gathered around his hospital bed, thinking he had days to live. But what they didn't know was, he was watching everything. Alive, awake, and quietly rewriting his will. Edwin Cole, a wealthy but lonely billionaire, pretends to be terminally ill to test the hearts of his 3 grown children. As they react, some with greed, others with fake tears, he silently observes from behind hospital cameras. Welcome back. As you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also share with your friends. Now back to the story. They gathered around his hospital bed like vultures. He was supposed to be dying. But he wasn't. He just wanted to see who would cry, and who would count the money first. His name was Edwin Cole. A man of few words, clean shirts, and quiet eyes. For over 40 years, he ran one of the most successful logistics companies in the country. His name didn't trend. He didn't throw money at clubs or wear flashy gold. But when he spoke, banks listened. Politicians showed respect. And staff never dared ask for salary advances twice. Now he was 78. Still strong, still smart. But lonely. His wife had died 5 years ago. His only brother had died long before that. All he had left was his children. 3 of them. Angela, the firstborn. A lawyer with a sharp tongue and a sharper sense of entitlement. Richard, the middle child. Quiet, ambitious, but always chasing shortcuts. Joel, the last son. The only one who called on Sundays but never picked up when money was mentioned. They all lived comfortable lives. Funded by him. And yet, the phone calls had stopped. The visits disappeared. The only time he saw them now was during birthdays, holidays, or when someone needed a new car or a business bailout. It started with a cough. A sharp pain in his side. He went to the doctor. Nothing serious, they said. Just inflammation. A round of medication and rest would fix it. But instead of going home, Edwin sat in the hospital room for a few hours and made a decision. He would not die. But he would pretend he was. He called his lawyer the next morning. I want to test my children. The man, Mr. Douglas, frowned. Test them, sir? Yes. I want you to draw up a fake version of my will. I want you to deliver it to them while I'm in the hospital. You're planning to stage a, yes. He leaned forward. I want to see how they act when they think I'm gone. That afternoon, Edwin called all 3 children into his private hospital room. He was lying on the bed, tubes attached to his hand, though none were actually doing anything. He spoke slowly, deliberately. There's no easy way to say this. The doctors found something in my lungs. They say it's spreading. Angela gasped. Richard blinked rapidly. Joel covered his mouth. Edwin looked at all 3. They said, I have a few months, maybe less. He watched their faces carefully. Joel looked shaken. Angela seemed to be trying to look sad. Richard kept glancing at the machines. I'm not dead yet, Edwin continued. But I've told Mr. Douglas to share my will with you. So you all know what to expect. Angela spoke first. Daddy, we're so sorry. We'll do everything to support you. Richard added, yes, sir. We'll take care of things. Anything you need. Joel was still silent. Eyes red. Edwin gave a small nod. Thank you. I'll rest now. They left the room together. Outside the hospital, Angela turned to Richard. What do you think is in the will? Richard shrugged. Probably equal share. Maybe some land in Ibadan. Angela scoffed. He better not put that old cook of his inside it. Or that driver. Richard frowned. You think he would? Angela folded her arms. With Daddy? Anything is possible. Joel stood apart from them, looking down at his shoes. Angela called out, Joel? You okay? He nodded. I wasn't expecting this. Angela rolled her eyes. He's old. What did you expect? The man is 78. Richard added, we just need to be calm and smart about this. If anything funny is in that will, we'll contest it. Angela smiled. Exactly. 2 days later, Mr. Douglas gathered them in Edwin's study. Edwin remained in the hospital, watching everything through a discreet security camera installed in the room 2 months earlier. The fake will was thick. Type. Stamp. Douglas cleared his throat. As requested by Mr. Edwin Cole, I am here to read the contents of his will. Please listen carefully. Angela sat upright. Richard opened a note-taking app on his phone. Joel just stared at the lawyer. Douglas began. To my first daughter Angela, I leave the house in Victoria Garden City, the BMW, and a sum of 5 million naira to settle her current debt. Angela raised an eyebrow. How did he know about that? Douglas didn't pause. To my son Richard, I leave the 40% shares in EC Logistics and the property in Lekki Phase 1. He may sell it if he desires. Richard grinned. Thank God. Angela frowned. To my last son Joel, I leave control over the foundation account, the staff pension fund and primary medical proxy. Joel blinked. Medical proxy? Angela hissed. So what? You're the nurse now? Douglas continued. Any unauthorized attempt to alter this will before my passing will be considered breach of trust. Angela stood up. Sorry, this doesn't make sense. I'm the firstborn. Why would I get the least? Richard added, yeah. And why would Joel be given authority over anything? He's never been part of the company. Douglas kept a straight face. I'm only the messenger. Angela turned to Joel. Did you speak to him? Did you go behind our backs? Joel shook his head. I didn't even know he was sick until 3 days ago. Angela scoffed. Right. That evening Joel returned to the hospital. He sat by Edwin's bed and held his hand. Dad, I don't care about the will. I just want you to be okay. Edwin looked at him quietly. Are you angry? Joel shook his head. I'm scared. Edwin sighed. Thank you for coming. Joel sat with him for 2 hours. He didn't ask about the house, or the shares, or the money. He just stayed. Later that night, Edwin opened his notebook and wrote, One has already failed. One is watching the clock. And one is watching my heart. Let's see how far they're willing to go. From the moment the will was read, the house changed. It wasn't obvious at first. No shouting. No direct insults. But Edwin could feel the shift. Even though he remained in the hospital room, his mind was sharp and his eyes, through the cameras, saw everything. Angela started calling Mr. Douglas frequently. Are you sure this is the final version? She asked on her 4th call. Yes, madam, he replied. Mr. Cole signed it with full consciousness. And there's no clause that can be updated if, say, one child is more active in his care? Douglas didn't answer that part. Back in the house, Angela began visiting the hospital more frequently. But her timing was always perfect. Just after lunch, when Edwin was groggy and barely awake, she would stand by the bed, hold his hand, whisper, Daddy, I'm here, and take pictures. Always pictures. Not of him, of herself, holding his hand. She would send them to Richard and say, I've been with Dad all week. He smiled when I told him about my death. I think he'll change the will. Richard was no fool. He knew what she was doing. So he too stepped up. Richard arranged for a private nurse to visit Edwin, even though the hospital had nurses on duty 24/7. I want my father to get the best, he told the doctor loudly. He also brought in a pastor. The man of God should pray for him. Anoint him. Keep him strong. Edwin played along. He let the prayers flow. He smiled weakly when Richard entered the room. But in his notebook he wrote, Richard is not here for me. He is here for the prize. Meanwhile, Joel barely visited. Twice a week. That was all. But each visit was real. He didn't take selfies. He didn't announce his arrival to anyone. He brought books, magazines, played soft jazz on his phone, sat in silence when his father was tired, talked only when asked. Edwin noticed. One afternoon, Joel entered with a small bag. Hey Dad, I brought pap and beans. You said you missed it. Edwin smiled. From Mama Esther's? Yes. Joel set it up on the table. You can't eat much, but at least try. As Edwin chewed slowly, Joel brought out a cloth and wiped his father's hands. No cameras. No audience. Just quiet care. Back at the family house, Angela and Richard were having a very different conversation. I don't like this Joel angle, Angela said, sipping malt. Richard nodded. Me too. The medical proxy part, it gives him access. Exactly. What if Dad told the doctor something already? Something about updating the will again? We need to be smart, Richard said. If he dies today and Joel's name is still on that medical authorization, he could claim Dad wanted to change things before dying. Angela raised an eyebrow. So what do we do? Richard leaned in. We asked the doctor for an emergency family meeting. Say we suspect confusion in his decisions. Get them to revoke Joel's access. Angela clapped softly. Now you're thinking. The next day, Angela went alone to the hospital administrator. My father's condition is getting worse, she said. He's confused. Sometimes he calls me Rose. That's not even my name. I'm worried he may have signed things he didn't understand. The doctor frowned. Well, his vitals are stable. No signs of mental decline. Angela faked a tear. Please. Just talk to the rest of the family. We want to be sure. Later that week, the hospital called a family mediation meeting. Joel was surprised. "What's this about?" he asked. Richard stepped forward. "Just precaution. We're not saying Dad is unstable. We just want to be sure he wasn't pressured." Joel blinked. "By who?" Angela jumped in. "Maybe by staff. Or even outsiders. We just want Dad protected." Joel turned to the doctor. "You've been seeing him every day. Has he shown any signs of confusion?" The doctor shook his head. "Not once." Joel looked at his siblings. "So what is this really about?" Neither answered. That night, Edwin wrote in his journal again, "They're trying to block Joel. Which means they see him as a threat. Which means, he passed the test I didn't even set." 1 week later, Angela did something that shocked even Richard. She went to Mr. Douglas's office with a sealed envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "A revised draft," she said, smiling. "Just in case. I think Dad might want to include some charity work." I helped him think it through. Douglas frowned. "You're trying to insert yourself into the legal process." Angela leaned forward. "I'm trying to preserve legacy. If Joel gets control of everything, it will disappear in 2 years." Douglas didn't open the envelope. "Angela," he said carefully, "you may want to think deeply about what you're doing." She smiled again. "I have. That's why I came." Back at the hospital, Edwin asked his nurse, "Have any of my children asked about my health?" She said, "Yes. Mr. Joel always asks." "What about Angela or Richard?" She hesitated. "They mostly ask about discharge papers. And insurance coverage." Edwin nodded slowly. A few nights later, Joel stayed late. "Dad, I've been thinking," he said quietly. "About the will." Edwin looked up. Joel continued, "Please don't leave me anything big. I don't want to fight with them. You've already done enough for me." Edwin studied his son's face. "You'd be okay with that?" Joel nodded. "I just want to know you're happy. That's all." Edwin smiled. "You're the only one who's passed without even knowing the test." It happened on a quiet Thursday morning. Joel came to the hospital as usual, holding a paper bag with breakfast. But when he opened the door to room 307, the bed was empty. The sheets were folded. The monitors were turned off. The nurse at the front desk told him Mr. Edwin Cole had been transferred. Joel blinked. "Transferred to where?" She checked her file. "There's no discharge record here." Joel's heart began to race. At the same time, Angela and Richard received a message. It was from Mr. Douglas. The subject line read, "Temporary withdrawal of access." The body of the email said, "As per Mr. Edwin Cole's legal instruction, all family access to his personal estate and business holdings has been paused until further notice." Angela called Richard immediately. "What's going on?" Richard was already panicking. "He's gone. They said he left the hospital. Nobody knows where he is." "What do you mean gone?" Angela shouted. "Did he die? Was he moved?" "No. Just gone. They tried Mr. Douglas. He didn't answer. They called the driver. His number had been switched off. Joel called the house staff. No one had seen Edwin. By noon, panic had set in. Joel sat in his car for 10 minutes before deciding what to do. He drove to the family compound in Surelier, the old one from their childhood. The gate was open. The compound looked dusty. But the light in the back room was on. Joel walked slowly toward it. He knocked once. Then twice. No answer. Then the door creaked open. There he was. Edwin Cole. Sitting on a plastic chair in his undershirt, holding a crossword puzzle book. Joel stepped in. "Dad." Edwin looked up. "You found me." Joel exhaled sharply. "What are you doing here?" Everyone thought, that I was gone?" "Yes." Edwin smiled faintly. "Good." Joel sat down beside him. "What's going on?" Edwin put down the crossword. "Sometimes, to know how people truly feel, you have to remove yourself from their reach. I'm not sick, Joel. I was. But I got better weeks ago. The doctors gave me the all clear." Joel stared. "So the will? The hospital? The tests?" Edwin nodded. "All part of the plan." "Why?" Joel asked. "Because I was tired of pretending I didn't see the truth. The greed. The calculations. The fake love. I needed to know for sure." Joel sat in silence. Then softly, "And what now?" Edwin picked up his book. "Now we watch what they do when they can't find me. That's when true colors shine brightest." By the next day, the entire family was in chaos. Angela had contacted the police to report a missing person. Richard posted on Facebook asking friends to help find their father. Some people replied with sympathy. Others with sarcasm. "Now una sabe se una papa de important?" Meanwhile, Edwin stayed in the Surelier house, watching the news and making quiet notes. He watched Angela do 2 TV interviews. One tearfully pleading for her father's return. One on a financial show, hinting that she might take over EC Logistics if her father didn't return. He watched Richard post stories about family unity, while secretly trying to gain access to the company's financial backend. Only Joel acted differently. He returned to the hospital, spoke to the nurses, brought gifts to the staff. Then he went to Mr. Douglas's office. "Sir," he said, "I know you can't tell me where he is. I just want to know, is he safe?" Mr. Douglas smiled. "That's the first real question anyone has asked me all week." The following morning, Joel received an envelope at his doorstep. No name. No stamp. Just a clean white paper inside. Read, "You're not like the others. You never were. Continue to stand." Joel folded it and placed it in his drawer. He didn't tell Angela. He didn't tell Richard. He just kept showing up. Helping. Calling staff. Covering some debts at the company. Quietly. One afternoon, Angela burst into Mr. Douglas's office. "We need to change the proxy. Joel is acting like a shadow CEO. It's not right." Douglas raised an eyebrow. "He's doing what none of you have done. He's stepping in without expecting anything in return. That's not the point." Angela snapped. "If Dad doesn't come back soon, we'll need someone to officially take charge. And it won't be Joel." Douglas leaned forward. "Angela, your father may not be where you expect, but he sees everything. Be very careful what you do next." That same day, Richard tried to sell the Lecky property mentioned in the will. But the agents told him the papers had been frozen. Ownership had been pulled back into a holding trust, controlled directly by Mr. Cole. He kicked a chair in frustration. Meanwhile, back in Surelier, Edwin sat with Joel in the garden. They ate roasted corn and drank cold malt from glass bottles. Edwin said, "You know, I always thought it would be Richard who would lead the company. He was always clever. But cleverness without character is dangerous." Joel said nothing. Edwin continued, "Angela is sharp. She gets things done. But her heart," he tapped his chest, "it's heavy with pride." Joel finally asked, "So what are you going to do?" Edwin looked into the sky. "I'm going to let them break. Then I'll decide who's worthy to rebuild." That night, Edwin wrote his final journal entry for the week. "I disappeared." And still, the loudest ones only shouted louder. The quiet one listened. He waited. That's leadership. Angela was losing patience. 2 weeks had passed since their father vanished. There was no announcement. No press statement. No funeral. No sign of life. But somehow, everything still felt like he was watching. The company hadn't collapsed, yet Angela noticed something strange. Her office laptop no longer connected to the internal server. Her access to executive reports had been cut. When she called the IT manager, he said, "Sorry Ma, we received clearance to restrict board-level data. Temporarily." From who? The legal team. She stormed into Mr. Douglas's office the next day. "This is harassment. I am his daughter. Firstborn. You cannot freeze me out." Douglas remained calm. "Nobody is frozen out, Angela. But until Mr. Cole returns or the board restructures legally, no child has full access." "Then declare him missing," she barked. "Let the court appoint an interim executor." Douglas looked at her quietly. "Do you want to bury him before he's gone?" Angela said nothing. Back in Lecky, Richard was facing his own problem. His crypto investments had crashed. Badly. A project he planned to launch, using funds expected from selling the family property, had stalled. He tried to approach one of his father's business associates. "Sir, I just need a short bridge loan. Dad would have wanted this." The man gave a tight smile. "With all due respect, Richard, your father taught us never to mix desperation with business. You're not ready." Meanwhile, Joel was doing something else entirely. He spent his days overseeing minor issues at EC Logistics. Nothing grand. Nothing flashy. Staff clocking errors. Broken air conditioning units. Delayed invoices. Things no one else noticed. He paid for lunch on the last Friday of the month. Jollof rice and fried fish for all drivers. He personally drove to the depot when the warehouse reported a leaking roof. One of the old cleaners called him Mr. J with a proud smile. "Your papa go proud well," she said. He just nodded. That Sunday, Joel called a family meeting. In the compound living room. Just the 3 of them. No lawyers. No staff. "I think we need to talk," Joel said calmly. Angela sat with folded arms. Richard leaned back, uninterested. We've spent more energy fighting over a will than checking if Dad is truly okay, Joel said. We've called the police, Angela snapped. We've tried everything. He wants to disappear. That's not on us. Joel turned to her. Have you thought maybe he's waiting for us to act like family, not shareholders? Richard laughed. Is this a TED Talk? Joel looked at him. You lost over 10 million naira last week. You've been trying to sell a property that legally belongs to someone else. Richard sat up. How did you know that? Because I've been cleaning up your mess at the office, Joel replied. You don't even know the payroll manager's name. Angela rolled her eyes. So what's your point, Joel? My point is, if we continue like this, even if Dad comes back, he won't want to stay. And if he doesn't come back, we'll lose everything trying to fight for something we didn't earn. Angela stood. He made us like this. We didn't ask for his money. He trained us to be strong. He trained us to be kind, Joel said softly. Some of us just forgot. The room went quiet. Then Richard mumbled, So what now? Joel pulled out an envelope. He left me this. It arrived last night. I didn't tell you before because I wasn't sure what it meant. He opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten letter. Joel read it aloud. If they break, don't fight them. Let them. Pride is louder than wisdom in the beginning. But wisdom always outlives pride. Keep standing. Angela swallowed hard. He sent that. Joel nodded. Then he's watching. He never really left us, Joel whispered. He just left the spotlight. The next morning, a story broke online. A blog posted a photo of Edwin Cole buying roasted plantain by the roadside in Surulere. The caption read, Billionaire in disguise? Within minutes it went viral. Some people laughed. Others doubted it. Photoshop. Old picture. Publicity stunt. Angela saw the post and froze. She called Richard. Did you see this? Yes, he said, voice dry. It's him. Joel didn't comment. He just smiled. That same evening, a black SUV pulled into the compound. Slowly. Quietly. It was him. Edwin Cole. Wearing a simple shirt and slippers. Holding a plastic bag. Angela ran out. Daddy? Richard followed. Dad, we've been looking everywhere. Edwin looked at them and said nothing. Joel stood by the front door. His eyes met his father's. Edwin gave him a slow nod. Then he walked inside. Dinner was quiet. No lectures. No anger. Just silence. After the meal, Edwin stood up and said, I'm going to my room. Tomorrow we talk. He turned to Joel. Son, can you help me up the stairs? Joel stood immediately. As they walked together, Edwin whispered, They broke just like I knew they would. Joel replied softly, But now they're listening. Edwin smiled. Then maybe there's still hope. The next morning the entire house was quiet. Edwin woke early, made tea by himself, and sat outside on the balcony. Joel joined him, still half asleep. You didn't rest? He asked. Edwin shook his head. Rest is for men who have peace. I'm not there yet. Joel poured his own cup. You're back. That's enough for now. Edwin looked ahead. Back isn't always the same as home. At 10 a.m. he called everyone to the living room. Angela was dressed in a suit. Richard wore cologne like he was meeting investors. Joel came in slippers. Edwin sat, eyes sharp. Thank you for coming, he began. This won't take long. Angela leaned forward. Dad, before anything, I just want to say, Edwin raised his hand. Let me speak. Then you can talk. She sat back. Quiet. Edwin pulled out a thick brown envelope. This is the real will. Not the one I gave Mr. Douglas to read. That one was a mirror. This one is the truth. Richard cleared his throat. So the other one was fake? Edwin nodded. It was a test. To see what would come out of you all when I had nothing left but time. Nobody spoke. He handed the envelope to Joel. Read it out loud. Joel opened the pages. His voice shook slightly. To my daughter Angela, I leave 10 million naira, the Toyota Prado, and a 1-year lease on the Banana Island house. Angela blinked. 1-year lease. Joel continued. Should she prove herself trustworthy and committed to family restoration, the property becomes hers in full. Angela opened her mouth to speak but stopped. To my son Richard, I leave 1 petrol station and 15% shares in EC Logistics. These will remain under conditional supervision until he clears all debts and proves he can build, not just spend. Richard looked down at his hands. His jaw clenched. Joel paused. Edwin motioned, keep reading. Joel swallowed. To my son Joel, I leave 60% control of EC Logistics, All foundational assets in the family compound. Angela gasped. Richard sat up straight. Joel stopped. Dad, I don't, Edwin interrupted. Keep reading? Joel sighed. The reason for this distribution is simple. Love is not earned by blood alone. It is revealed in action, in silence, in truth. Joel never asked me for anything. But he gave me peace. When I needed kindness, he brought food. When I needed space, he gave me time. When I needed presence, he showed up. Joel dropped his gaze. Edwin stood. You both know I could have left you equal shares. But I've done that before. And all it brought was noise. This time I'm choosing peace. Joel will manage the assets. You will receive your portions. But you will earn the rest. Angela stood, voice shaky. So that's it? After everything? You punish us for reacting to what looked like your death. Edwin looked her in the eye. You weren't punished. You were revealed. She folded her arms, lips trembling. Richard chuckled bitterly. So now Joel is the king? Edwin shook his head. He's the steward. Whether he becomes king is up to him. Joel finally spoke. I don't want to rule over anyone. I just want us to be family again. Edwin nodded. Then start by forgiving them. Joel turned to his siblings. We can work together. But things must change. Angela looked away. Richard sighed. Fine. But I'm not bowing to my younger brother. Edwin smiled. You already did. When you lost control and he didn't. Nobody laughed. Later that afternoon, Edwin called Joel into his study. I need you to understand something, he said. This power I gave you, it's not a reward. It's a responsibility. Joel nodded. I know. Edwin leaned forward. They will hate you for a while. Even when you help them, they'll think you're lording over them. Don't take it personal. Joel smiled faintly. I'll try not to. Edwin placed a key in his hand. This is for the legacy box. Every document, every backup, every secret you'll need is inside. Guard it well. Joel looked at the key. I'm scared, Dad. Edwin touched his shoulder. Good. That means you're not blinded by pride. Pride is the fastest way to destroy an inheritance. Fear will keep you cautious. Caution will make you wise. That evening, Angela came into Joel's room. She didn't knock. She stood by the door. I didn't expect this. Joel put down his journal. Neither did I. She crossed her arms. I thought I deserved more. Maybe you still do, Joel said softly. But maybe it has to come from who you become next, not who you've been. She nodded. We'll see. Joel didn't sleep much that night. He stared at the ceiling, holding the key in one hand and his father's words in the other. The next morning, Edwin made an announcement. I will no longer be CEO. I'm retiring. Joel is now in charge. Angela and Richard will support in advisory roles. All further conflict will result in removal from the inheritance. And with that, he handed over a simple envelope marked, Let the real work begin. 3 months later, the house was different. Not louder. Just calmer. Edwin no longer walked with urgency. He sat more. Watched the birds more. Spoke less. But when he did, people listened. Joel had settled into his new role quietly. He didn't fire anyone. He didn't make any big speeches. He worked. One meeting at a time. One problem at a time. The drivers respected him. The board didn't challenge him. The staff whispered, he's not like the others. Angela resumed part-time consultancy at the company. Her tone changed. Her face softened. She stopped trying to prove herself. She just helped. Richard struggled for a while. His business plans didn't click. He had debts. But one day he came to Joel. I want to start again. From scratch. Show me how to manage like Dad did. Joel nodded and handed him a book. Start here. Then follow me tomorrow to the depot. That was the first time Richard said thank you, and meant it. One quiet Saturday morning, Edwin called Joel into the study again. His voice was slower than usual. I've written the final letter. Joel sat down. For what? For when I'm gone. Dad? Edwin smiled gently. I'm not afraid. I just want to finish well. He handed Joel a sealed envelope. Keep it safe. Don't open it until I tell you to. Joel took the letter and held it tightly. You're not leaving soon. No. But it's better to be ready. 2 weeks later, Edwin got a fever. The doctor came. It passed. Then came another one. He started forgetting dates. Then names. Not all the time. Just sometimes. But enough to notice. One night, he sat on the balcony and whispered to Joel, I think it's time. Joel didn't answer. He just sat with him till dawn. A week later, Edwin slipped into a deep sleep. He didn't die, but he stopped waking fully. The doctors said it was peaceful, natural, like a man going home one slow breath at a time. Joel opened the sealed envelope that night. The letter read, "To my children, this is not a goodbye. This is a blessing. Angela, I always saw your fire. I only wished you learned to warm others instead of burn them. But I'm proud of how you grew. You still have time to lead, with grace not fear. Richard, you were born with speed but forgot direction. I prayed every day that you'd stop chasing shortcuts and build real strength. Now that you've slowed down, I see a man, not a shadow. Joel, you were the quiet one, the watcher, the peace in the storm. I gave you leadership not because you were the smartest but because you were the safest place. You listened, you served, and when it mattered you stood firm. That is the kind of man I hope this family remembers. This house is yours, not to rule but to hold together. And if one day you feel tired, walk to my study, sit in my chair, and ask yourself what I would have done. The answer will come. I love you all even when you couldn't see it. I left money, yes. But this letter, is my true will. Remember me not as a rich man. Remember me as a father who never stopped testing but always loved. Edwin Cole." Joel closed the letter, eyes wet. He didn't cry loudly. He just breathed out slowly, then walked back to his father's bedside. He held his hand. "You passed too, Dad," he whispered. "You passed." 1 week later, Edwin Cole passed away in his sleep. No suffering. No pain. Just silence. At the funeral, the compound overflowed with people. Politicians, staff, church members, street vendors, even old students he had paid school fees for in secret. Angela gave a calm tribute. Richard spoke honestly for once. And Joel simply read the letter aloud. No music played during the reading. Just the sound of a father's truth. After the funeral they returned home. Joel placed the letter in a glass frame above the family portrait. Angela came beside him. "You did well," she said quietly. "So did you," Joel replied. She smiled. "Dad would have been proud." He was. That night, Joel sat in the study alone. The house was dark, peaceful. For the first time in years he didn't feel like the youngest. He felt like the keeper of something sacred. He opened his father's journal. The last line, written in shaky handwriting, read, "If they love me only when I give, then I failed. But if they love one another when I'm gone, then I lived well." And they did. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification for more. See you soon.